Alright folks, what we have here is essentially a bit of, I actually call it kind of a heat map graph showing us the relationship between how many repetitions we're doing per set and essentially what we're focusing on. Now obviously on this graph is not the idea of what percentage of your max you're working at. In reality, for this to be really effective in the ranges that are outlined here, these repetitions should be essentially as many as you can perform, maybe adding as much as 4 or 5 extra reps. So if we say for true power, you're going to really be emphasizing this whenever you do sets of 1 to 3. Now maybe you could have done as many as 7 reps with that set, but you're going to be still putting maximal effort into each of those repetitions. Now notice there's a certain sweet spot for where we're going to get the best with power development. That's the darkest blue. Where we're going to get the best strength development, hypertrophy, and endurance. But for the most part, we're always going to have a little bit of crossover from one to the other. So if we're doing legitimately heavy sets of 10, and especially if we're working with someone that's more of a novice beginner than someone that's an advanced / elite athlete, we're going to have greater carryover to the other aspects. So sets of 10 not only are going to help with hypertrophy, they're also going to help with endurance, strength, and then to a lesser extent power. Just like if we're doing really heavy sets of 5, we're going to be building strength but still having a positive effect on both power and hypertrophy, and a little bit on endurance. Now we can obviously push rest periods, make them shorter to help work on endurance more. We can lengthen them so we can focus even more on strength and power. There's a lot of different ways that we can modify this. But if we're writing a program and we're specifically trying to emphasize certain traits, like we're trying to emphasize maximal strength, then that program better be made up of a lot of the programming being in heavy sets of 3 to 5 repetition. Obviously, we can have sets with less repetitions. We can have sets with more repetitions. But we should definitely be focusing on what we're looking for in the middle there. Now, if our goal is to have certain phases where we're flowing from one into the next, you can see how you're going to emphasize certain repetitions, schemes, and then slowly cut down on the repetitions and increase on the load / the intensity so that you're really going to be able to get the greatest amount of change that we're going to move into developing the next aspect from the first one. The other thing I want you to think about when we're looking up here, guys, this is always specific to the muscles we're utilizing and the movement patterns they're being utilized in. So we can develop power and strength in the lower body by doing a lot of heavy Olympic lifting and a lot of heavy squatting and deadlifting, etc. Meanwhile, we can be all about just muscle size and endurance in the upper body by programming much higher repetitions in things like push-ups, pull-ups, military press, and rows. So if we're trying to focus on effects aesthetically with certain parts of the body or performance with others, once again, our programming should always reflect this, and our repetition range should be working in the direction that we're focusing upon. Because if our goal is strength in a strength program, we shouldn't be doing a large amount of sets of 15 to 20 repetitions. We need to be focusing on that which we say matters. Thank you guys for listening. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment below.